Hello guys and welcome back to another video of Architects 3DP. This is the 18th episode of the Build the Best DIY 3D printer series. In the last episode, we finished programming the firmware for our custom 3D printer, that as you know is the Marlin 119. At the end of the video we had a slight issue. If you remember, when we used the command auto home, the y-axis was homing to the wrong direction. Today we'll fix that and much more, checking all the configuration we did last week and using a new software that is pronterface. But before starting, be sure to subscribe and to ring that bell to be notified when cool stuff is uploaded. If you do it, you will help me creating new content and growing the channel to reach more special viewers like you. Alright, so starting from where we left last week, we're going to start by fixing the issue with the wrong direction of the y-axis. But before, we are going to download the software that we will use to optimize the configuration of our custom 3D printer. The software that we're going to use is pronterface. And to download it, we're going to navigate to pronterface.com, and here at the top we're going to click in Get It. Now we're going to click here in Latest Release, and once here in this page, we're going to scroll down and we're going to click here in Print Run, Windows 18th of November 2017, or the last version you have there. The download will automatically start, and once we have it, we're going to extract it from the zip. It is a portable software, so we don't need to install it. So what we're going to do is to move it to the desired folder where you want to store it. In my case, I'm going to move the uncompressed folder to C, and I'm going to attach the software to my Windows taskbar to have a shortcut. Alright, so now we can delete the files and folders of the download, and we're going to open pronterface. We're going to open as well the marlin.ino file where we were editing last week, and go to our lovely configuration.h tab. Alright, so once here, we're going to be using both softwares. First, I'm going to connect the 3D printer that I have previously connected to my PC via USB to pronterface. For that, in the Arduino we can see that it's connected to the COM4, so here in pronterface we're going to select COM4, and next in the baud rate we're going to check the one we set in the last episode, that as you can see is 250,000 bauds. So we'll set here 250,000 and click connect. Here we go, now the printer is connected to the software. So now we're going to home the x-axis to check if it's working fine, clicking here. Alright, so the x-axis seems to be working fine. Now we're going to home the y-axis, but be ready to turn off the 3D printer as we did last week in case it's not working fine. Notice that you will have to turn off the 3D printer from the power socket as well as disconnecting the USB cable. So we'll click here, and as you can see it's working in the wrong direction. We're going to fix that in the Marlin real quick. Once in the configuration.h tab of the Marlin, we're going to press invert y direction that we set to true last week, and we're going to set it to false. Once done, we'll save the changes, and we'll click upload to flash the firmware in the 3D printer. Okay, so one more time, back in pronterface, we'll click connect again to reconnect the 3D printer. If we home now the y-axis, you can see that it's going to the correct direction, so problem solved. Okay. Finally, we're going to make a general home of all axes to check if the z-axis homing works fine as well. Alright, so as we can see, it does, but it's really good for now. The next we are going to do is to check if the dimensions we set last week are correct or not, and for that we're going to click, for example, here in the XY center. If we look at our 3D printer, the nozzle is far away of the center of the heated bed that is in this hole right here, what means that our settings are not optimized at all. So the next we're going to do is to fix that. For that we're going to go to the Marlin, and here we're going to search pressing Ctrl F, bed center add. As we can see, it's set to 22.3, what should be the very zero of the heated bed. This means that our settings are wrong, and we're going to check what settings should we change. As I told you before, I'm not an expert in programming, and together with me, you are discovering how this Marlin configuration works. I'm going to set now the center at 100 to see what happens, and upload the firmware. Now in pronterface I'm going to click in the XY center button, and as you can see, it's not working fine. This means our configuration we did in the last episode is not correct, so we're going to go back to the Marlin and check that configuration. And once here we're going to search travel limits. Here we're going to set again all the values, so we're going to set the X min to 0 as well as the Y and Z. Then the max positions to 250. Once changed, we'll upload the firmware. If you have any issues uploading the firmware, just disconnect and connect again the USB cable from your computer and it should fix it. Alright, let's set again the dimensions of the printer. Back in pronterface, we're going to auto-home the 3D printer, and we're going to move it to the coordinates x0 and y0. So we'll manually home the x-axis and then the y-axis. This, as you can see, is the real 0, 0. Now we're going to check the maximum dimensions by moving the axis manually with pronterface. So for that, as I know that my axes are more than 200 mm, I'm gonna move it 100 to the right in the x-axis and one more time 100. We're now closer to the end of the axis, so we're gonna move it 10 mm. 1, 2, 3, and 4 times. The gap now is smaller. Remember, right now we are in the coordinate 240. We're gonna move it again 10 mm to the right with this 250, and as you can see, the gap is already small, so we're going to move it now one by one until we hear the motor fail. So we can press 1, and as you can see, the printer is not moving. That's because we just set in the marlin the X max to 250, so we're going to change it again to 270 in every axis. So back in the marlin, 270, 270, and 270, and upload the firmware one more time. As you can see, you have to be very patient in this process, but at the same time you will learn a lot by doing it, as it's happening to me. Anyways, if you're not interested in all this process, I will upload my final Marlin configuration, so you will be able to just download it and flash it into your 3D printer. Okay, so once flashed, back into pronterface, same process. First we'll home the X, then we'll click 2 times 100, then 5 times the 10 button, and now we're going to see how many millimeters we are able to move it to the right without any issues. Right now we are in the coordinate x250, and you don't need to have this number in mind, since you can check it out here in the LCD screen of the 3D printer. Once set, we're gonna move it one by one till the movement is not clear. Alright, so that's 1 with no problem. 2, 3, yep. Here we have problems. Okay, so that's our X max, 252 mm. We're going to change it in the Marlin and upload the firmware. Remember, if you have issues, unplug and plug the 3D printer back and it will work. Alright, so once done, we're gonna home the X-axis in pronterface, and we're going to press the button 100, 1, 2, and 3 times. As you can see, the printer stopped very cleanly without missing any steps, and that's because we didn't move the axis 300 mm, because the firmware is limiting it to, as we can see in the LCD screen, 252. Does this value sound familiar to you? Yes, you know. Now we're going to do the same with the y-axis of the printer, and for that we're going to first make a general auto-home. Now we're going to home the y-axis only, clicking here in this icon. And this is the exact y0 position. Again, we'll move it pressing the button 100, 1, and 2 times. Now we'll move it 10 by 10 mm till we see that it's very close to the end of the axis. As a clue, you can watch in the left hand side of the bed that the linear bearing will set the end of the axis once it touches the Y corner through the printed part. So looking at this point, we're going to move it 10 by 10 mm. That's 1, 2, 3. Alright, so we're getting very close to the end. Now we're going to continue one by one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But wait, this 10th time it didn't move fluently, so we're going to set the Y max value to 239 mm, as you can see in the LCD screen. So one more time in the Marlin, we'll set it to 239 and upload the firmware again. Remember that you should save the changes every time you modify something. So we'll write 239, save the file, unplug the 3D printer, and click the button Upload. Here we go! Now we'll adjust the Z-axis as well, and for that we're going to make a general auto-home, and now we're going to move the Z-axis down pressing the -10 button. If we look at the LCD screen, the Z is at 0. Now we're going to move it to the very top of the axis, so we're going to start 10 by 10 pressing this button 10 times. If we look at the screen, we are obviously at Z100. We're going to continue until the 200 mark. As you can see, we got here with no issue, so we're going to press special attention to this point right here, that as you can see is very close to the limit of the T8 threaded road. So we're going to move it one by one, till we see that's the limit. So 1, fine. 2, fine. 3, whoops, I hear a strange noise here. We're gonna set the limit at 202 millimeters. So one more time we'll go to the marlin and we're going to set the Z max position to 202. Save the changes and upload the firmware after plugging and unplugging the USB cable of the 3D printer. Alright, so it's done. Now in pronterface we're going to check that it worked. We're going to make an auto home. Now to check the x-axis we're going to press the home X button and move it 300 millimeters to the right. And yes, it stopped right where it's supposed to. Now in the y-axis, first home the y, and now 300 millimeters to the positive. Yes, a perfect stop one more time. Now we're going to check the Z, so we're going to make an auto home and then move it to the top. This time, instead of pressing the 10Z positive for 30 times, we're going to use the G-code command. So right here in pronterface, we're going to write the next code. Go Z300.0 F100. Well, we'll send the Z-axis to the coordinate 300 with a feed rate of 100. After sending the command, the printer will straightly go to the point Z300, but since we limited the Z max in the marlin to 202, it should stop at this point, and that's exactly what we are going to check now. Yes, now it's perfectly set up. Now we won't have any danger of breaking the stepper motors if we set a wrong command to the 3D printer. Alright, so now we are going to make an auto home and continue with optimization. Step by step, we're getting to the best configuration of the printer, as you can see. Okay, so the next that we're going to do is to tune the center of the bed. If we click XY center button in pronterface, as we can see in the LCD, it moved to the coordinate 100, 100. What is wrong? Because the real center will be when the nozzle is exactly on top of this point right here. To set that, we're going to move the Z-axis down to the 0, and we're going to start moving with the buttons the X and Y axis until we bring the nozzle to this point. Alright, I think I have it. And looking to the LCD screen, we can see that the X, Y center will be in the point X126, Y110. So back in the marlin, we're going to search pressing Ctrl F, bed center. Here we're going to write our values, 126, 110. Now we'll save the file and upload the firmware. Alright, so now in pronterface, we'll press Auto Home, and it is not working, and I don't know why. If you know why it's not going to the center, please leave a comment and you will make everyone very happy. Okay, so I'm going to continue adjusting values. Since our 3D printer is already set with the mins and max for every axis, I'm going to restore the max feed rates that, if you remember, we lowered a couple episodes ago. For that, in the marlin, we'll search default max feed rate, and we are going to set the X and Y to 300 and the Z to 5, as it was originally set by default. We'll save the file and upload it to the Arduino. We'll then make a homing, and as you can see, it's significantly faster now. Now I'm going to test the Z auto home and the auto bed leveling, but this time using commands. The command for the auto home is G28, so here in pronterface I'm going to write G28 and send it. As you can see, the printer will do the auto home normally. Now if we send the command G29, it will initiate the auto bed leveling, and we are going to check if it's working as expected. As we can see, it's making the bed leveling very close to the points that we set, if you remember, 10 mm inside of each of the corners. It's very close, but it's not exactly the point, so we're going to try to fix that. For that I'm going to make an auto home again, but before I'm going to fix something that I saw, and is that the bed leveling wastes too much time while the Z-axis is going up and down. To fix that, I'm going to reduce the Z clearances we set in the section probing. So back in the marlin, in the configuration.h tab, I'm going to search Z clearance deploy. And here I'm going to change the values. The first one is set to 7, and I'm going to lower that to 5. I'm going to lower the next two to 3, and the last one to 5. Once done, we'll save the file and upload the firmware to the Arduino. Now we'll repeat the G28 auto home and the G29 bed leveling to see if they are reduced. As you can see, the Z distance now is smaller and the process is much faster, what is great. Back to adjust the probing points of the auto bed leveling perfectly, we're going to scroll down in the bed leveling section, and before we're going to change some parameters here. In the mesh validation, we're going to change the mesh test hot end temp to 200, and the mesh test bed temp to 55, since they are the temps we used to use. Finally, we go to the parameters we were looking for. So as we can see, the grid is set to 4x4, what is correct, and next we have the probe positions. Since when we make the auto bed leveling, it starts from the front right, we're going to change those values first and check if the changes work. So back in pronterface, we'll make an auto home, and then we're going to move the x-axis to the right, exactly when the probe is on top of the edge of the bed. Right here, as we can see in the LCD screen, the x-coordinate of the nozzle is 212. If we now move it 10 mm to the left side of the bed using pronterface, as we can see the coordinate is 202. If we check our marlin, we set the right probe bed position exactly to 202, what is perfect. So as you can see, the calculations we did in the AutoCAD here were not that wrong. Now we'll do the same with the y-axis, so we're going to move it to the very edge of the heated bed. As we can see, we can't move it that far, since it reaches the 0 before. So if we check the offsets we set in the marlin, in between the nozzle and the probe, we can see that the y-offset is 10 mm. This way we can bring the nozzle to the very edge of the bed, and now move it 10 mm inside the bed. At this point, if we look at the LCD screen, we can see that the y is set to 13, so as we have an offset of 10, the coordinate that we'll have to set for the bed leveling front will be 13 minus 10 mm, what is 3. So back in the marlin, we'll set the front probe bed position, that is set to 13, down to 3. Now we're going to save the changes, flash the firmware one more time, and check if it works. As we can see, it brings an error while compiling. It says that the front probe bed position is outside the probe region. So back in the configuration.h tab, we're going to increase this value we set to 3, setting it to 10. That is the first value that works for me. Since it compiled, I'm going to save the changes and upload it to the 3D printer one more time. Now I'm going to make an auto home and then an auto bed leveling to see how it works now. Okay, so we can see that the first probing is not 10 mm inside the front right corner at all. It works for the y-axis, but not for the x-axis. It seems that the 3D printer takes into account the offsets we set in the section above, so we are going to add the difference of these offsets to the measures in the right probe bed position. Since the offset was 22 mm for the x-axis, I'm going to add 22 to 202, what will give us a total of 224. And that's the value we're going to set for the right probe bed position. Once done, save, upload the firmware, auto home, and auto bed leveling one more time. Damn, an error appeared while compiling one more time. What we're going to do now is to search bed size that previously we set to 214 in both axes, and now we're going to set it to the X and Y max positions we set before here down below. After changing that, we're going to come again to the grid points, and we're going to compile again to check if it works. As you can see, it works perfectly now, so we'll save, upload the firmware, and then we'll make an auto home in pronterface, as well as an auto bed leveling. Notice that here in pronterface you can create custom buttons clicking here. So since we are going to be using this G29 command a lot, we are going to create a button and set the title to auto bed leveling, command G29, and click OK. Now it will be easier to do every time, just clicking here. Alright, so what we said, auto home. Then auto bed leveling. We're going to check if it's now doing the first probe 10 mm inside the front right corner of the bed, and as you can see, it matches perfectly now. Now we just have to do the same with the back and left probes. For that we'll move the z-axis to 0, and we're going to check when the nozzle reaches 10 mm inside of the bed in the back as well as in the left corner. I'm going to set first the x, moving the axis to when the nozzle is exactly on top of the left edge. And as we can see, it's exactly in the x20. We'll move it 10 to the right, so the point will be x30. Back in the marlin, we'll set left probe bed position that we set in the last episode to 42, down to 30. Now we'll compile and check if it works, and it does. Now we'll save, upload the firmware, and make an auto home and auto bed leveling to check if it comes to make the probe 10 mm inside of the left edge of the heated bed. As you can see, now the grid of the bed leveling is perfectly centered in the front, left, and right. Now we just have to adjust the back edge, so we're going to move the nozzle to the very back edge and move it to the front 10 mm using pronterface. This point gives us the Y coordinate 207 mm, so that's the value we're going to set in the marlin. So once here we'll set back probe bed position that was set to 197 up to 207. Now we compile to check that it works, and it does. Now as always, save and upload the firmware to the Arduino. Alright, so at this point, it should work perfectly. What we're going to do is to go to pronterface, make an auto home. We can see that it makes the probe in the perfect center of the heated bed, nice. Then we'll make an auto bed leveling, and as we can see, it perfectly matches with the edges of our heated bed, which is really nice. Alright, so we have all the marlin perfectly calibrated for now. We are at only one episode to have our first very cool print, and that will be in the next episode. We have the marlin perfectly up and running, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to change something in the future, because there is always gap to improve any parameter. For now, we can say that we are done for this episode and for the marlin configuration. Aren't you as happy as I am? If you haven't built a 3D printer yet, remember that you can check the bill of materials in the description of every video of this series. There you'll find the STL files, as well as the necessary hardware component with the links to buy them from the Amazon store of your country. For this episode, I'm going to upload the folder of my marlin configuration, so you can download it and flash it directly into your 3D printer if you built it exactly like me. Or maybe you will have to modify just a few parameters. You will find the link to get it down in the description. We will finally start printing in the next episode after setting up the Cura software. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and to ring that bell to be notified when cool stuff is uploaded. Hit the like button if you like the video, leave a comment and share this episode so more people can learn with this project. Finally, I just wanted to give a special thanks to all of you, and especially to our Patreon supporters, for continuing to make this channel possible. If you want to join them and support the channel as well, getting nice rewards and making me super happy, you can do it navigating to patreon.com/architects3dp or clicking here in the top right corner. Okay guys, so as always, see you in the next video.